The moment you have been waiting for is here. That's right, my thoughts on the V12 Cilindri in this video. Listen, we've talked about this for quite some time. I am the least and smallest Ferrari fan on the planet. As a matter of fact, the only brand that I hate more than Ferrari has become Porsche, not because of the product, but because of the brand itself. And while I'm not a big fan of Ferrari product, very few Ferraris really get my blood going, there are some Ferraris that are pretty exciting, and the V12 line has always been the case. And so you guys have seen me at Exotic Car Hacks, have multiple F12s, multiple A12s, and now my multiple third A12 GTS. And so while I've owned every Ferrari out there, including some of the nicest Pistas and F cars ever built in ever spec, I have always been very black and white and upfront about my thoughts about Ferrari. And that's one of the reasons I don't get any of my Ferraris new from Ferrari, even though I do, but they don't know, partially because the whole concept is that, again, I don't favor speaking about the brand in a favorable way just because. I am keeping it honest, and sometimes they like it, sometimes they're not. And so going into the V12 Cilindri, which was a car that they recently introduced as a replacement to the A12 GTS, they originally noted the A12 GTS would be the final V12. They also noted it would be the only V12 convertible, and once again, taking a page straight out of the Porsche playbook and how they've screwed us on creating non-endless, countless manuals for every car after the original GT3, saying that would be the last manual. Ferrari has learned the trick. You promise, you under-deliver, and people will still buy your product. So congratulations, Ferrari, on that move. But today we are talking about what I think about the new V12 variation of the A12 and A12 GTS called the V12 Cilindri, or whatever they call it. Don't quote me on the name. And you'll see some very interesting nuances between the car. And at first glance, when the car was released, the first thought that came to mind was, this isn't it. This was my first thing. I know everyone that's with Ferrari loved their car. For me, it was like, this ain't it. There's a giant black piece here connecting the headlights. It's awkward, it's weird, it's unsexy, it's too angular, and it's just bizarre. And the interior is straight out of a Puro Sangue, which was okay, but just not very feminine and exciting. And my thing with Ferrari is it has a very feminine presence. It has a sexy appeal to it, a lot different than Lamborghini's more angular, stronger, masculine energy. So for me, Ferrari has to always have finesse. And so the 12 Cilindri just didn't do that at first glance. And one of the reasons I requested to not do an actual video up front is because when I first saw the Puro Sangue, I thought, what a terrible car. I was like, it's ugly, it's stupid. But as I gotten to look at the car over and over in new variations, I was like, it's not that bad. And as a matter of fact, when we got our first one, I got to drive it. The review will be coming soon here on YouTube. I thought it was actually a superb SUV. And for that reason, I decided to no longer introduce my thoughts on a car and a design until I've had time to not just take it in, but also understanding. And that's one of the things you can expect right here on this channel, honesty and brutal honesty in some cases towards the cars, even if I own them. But I want to point you again to one thing. If you don't know what Exotic Car Hacks is, the largest resource center for exotic car owners and future exotic car owners, and you can find the link right there in the description. While we're in our Black Friday and July sale, you actually get access to the community for just $197 one-time fee. So take advantage of that, and of course you can click the link above that if you want to learn on how to hack cars, what does that even mean, and how we're driving exotic cars for free. And no, we're not renting them. I invented this game 20 years ago, and over 25,000 people now have used my strategies, so you should too. That said, let's take a look at the 12 Cilindri and how does it differ from an A12 GTS. So the biggest problematic part in the A12 GTS are the headlights. If you don't know this, every A12 GTS has basically bad headlights, and that is something that I think they fixed with the 12 Cilindri. It does have nicer, better headlights. Now, these headlights are always faulty on the A12. They're not just ugly or anything else. They just don't work as well. I hope they fix that, but we'll see. But as I've looked at more configuration on the 12 Cilindri, the biggest hurdle that I found to be in design is that black strip, like I said. And if you either make the car black or delete that stripe, it ends up being an actually decent looking car. Still angular, but decent. And for that reason, it does create a little bit of a different line. It's like Ferrari took a little stab at Lamborghini by coming up with a more angular shape similar to this. You can kind of see like there's angles in a Huracan. There's harder, harsher angles that don't exist in the smoother lines of a Ferrari. And so for that reason, I think that this is a really sexy car. and I think the new 12 Cilindri is a very aggressive car. And I don't know that that's the look they should be going for this. So we know it's sporting a V12, we know it's still naturally aspirated, we know it's gonna make an incredible sound, and we know the interior is there. But the real argument comes at a point of, at which point does Ferrari lose its sexiness in exchange for angular design? So we saw angular design during the Pininfarina era with the 599 going to the F12 being angular, 599 being smooth, then the 812 going back to smooth, and now them being angular. So I don't think it's random that they chose to go with a very aggressive angular look on this new car. But there are sides of it that look really good. I think if you compare the side of an 812, regardless that is GTS or super fast, to the side of a new 12 Cilindri, I think the 12 Cilindri is prettier. It has a better side profile. But if you compare its front, I think it's absolutely horrendously ugly. On the other hand, the rear also gives you some really bizarre shapes, because in this car, you get, again, some very smooth lines, very integrated taillights, and you don't get this weird two-tone thing going on. And so in order to really assess that, I decided to not assess the new 12 Cilindri based on paint. Instead, I decided to assess it based on the idea of what could be done with the car once you went to a better color. And once you go to a better color, I thought of how they did the 812, the SF90. You know, when they originally put out the SF90, they put out the car with this shark thin stripe, etc., giving the car a very bizarre look with a contrast stripe. This was one of the ugliest moves I think Ferrari had ever made in history, with the stripe just being so awkward. It made the car look like a hammerhead shark. It just didn't work. And so for that reason, when I was gauging this and taking my time really looking at the new car versus this car, I really started wondering if would it look better if it didn't have any of these offset weird stripes or two-tone combos. And the answer was yes, because when I saw the car in black, I was like, it has potential. We know the new wheel choices are much prettier. They're interesting. I know they're not as sporty as the wheels found in the original 812 and 812 GTS, but they are more showy. And this matters because this car, while being very aggressive and fast, is still driven more like a GT in comfort than it is like an F car. And I think that matters quite a bit, because I think the 12 Cilindri does a good job at encompassing that, except by adding the digitalness of the new experience that the SF90 and 296 have from a digital standpoint. It takes away from the driver experience that is somewhat still maintained as analog in this. And I think that's what makes the 812 GTS a better car, not necessarily because it's either faster or slower, because those cars are too new yet to see what can be done, and not because it's either angular or smooth, but rather because it clearly states from the very beginning when you look at it that it's going to be more of an evolution of the F12 rather than the evolution of this. And for me, this is a problem, because I thought the F12 was a better car than an 812 GTS, but not necessarily because of just the driving or not. I thought the Pininfarina design was superb. And when this car came out, I was like, I'm not into this design as much, and I'm still not. I don't think this design is as superb as it could be. This spec perhaps is superb and makes this car look better, but generally speaking, the 812 has never spoken to me as one of the best looking Ferraris. It is a good looking car, but it isn't the pinnacle of what Ferrari could do. And I feel like with the 12 Cilindri, it's going even further from that. And while it's trying to bring the angle back, it's also trying to give us references to some of the old Daytona cars, and it just looks weird. Like, I'm just not feeling the lines of how it all flows together. And so for me, right now, I still think the 812 is going to be better. But let's take a moment and talk about values here. But before we do, here's a quick word about our sponsor, Railsy.
Railsy.com is a reputable online platform specializing in auctioning high-end timepieces. Known for its transparency and security, it provides a reliable way to sell watches online. Focused on smooth transactions, Railsy ensures a secure environment for both buyers and sellers. Prioritizing genuine buyers, the platform offers a premium selling experience for sellers and great deals for buyers on luxury watches. Explore Railsy at Railsy.com for top-notch service in the luxury watch market.
All right, so values. Where will these cars go? These cars are currently spec'd between $450K and $700K, depending on the option packages. This is a near $700K car. It's got a 620K window. It's like stupid high. It's a GTS, so the majority of these cars are going to be in that range, under like the 550, 600K range, this being a super loaded car. So what will happen to that value when these cars in good specs are still selling 50, 80K over sticker, and really an average, average specs, probably much less than that, almost as much as 70, 80K off a sticker. So very wide range. What happens to the new 12 cylinder? Anytime something's new, as I tell you, it's going to be worth more because nobody can get one. But as things become much more common, values go down. Historically, V12 Ferraris have always been below sticker because they sported such high stickers, just like V12 Lamborghinis. Today though, we have a very different market where people are still launching for the final V12, hoping this one will finally be it. Will it work? Will it not? Time will tell, but you can expect a serious premium on the first 12 Cilindri convertibles to hit as soon as the cars come out, and I think that will quickly fade away, as I don't think the product will be that favorable for a very long time. Meaning that I think within 12 months, and as cars start to become widely available, I don't think we're going to see 200K markups like we saw on the Pure Sangue at the very beginning. Don't forget that the Pure Sangue has a no exception, mandatory 12 months right of refusal back to the dealer, in some cases 18 months, preventing people from flipping the world's first SUV that Ferrari introduced, FUV or whatever marketing bullshit they want to call it. But it doesn't change the fact that people are still, dealers are still able to command 200K premiums on used cars because they have to get the cars back and make their money. So will that sustain? Probably not, just based on numbers alone. Is it a cool car? The SUV is. This is definitely 7, 8 out of 10, but I assume the V12 Cilindri will also probably be a 5 out of 6 out of 10 just on design alone. I hope it drives significantly better than it looks, but knowing that I don't think this drives that spectacular, it's just a really good, chill V12 car. I'm not sure that this new generation with more digital kind of goods and less, again, connection to the road is going to be a home run for Ferrari. So time will tell. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Am I right? Do you like this better? Do you like the Cilindri better? I'd love to know your opinion of that. And of course, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. I'll catch you next time for Exotic Car Hacks.